You are all welcome. And begin with, in a special way, I would like to introduce our great panelists tonight. And I should begin with a panelist who gave us this topic, Professor Edward Kakonge. Those of you who were here during the last sitting, remember him suggesting that we should discuss critical thinking, which has been universally accepted as extremely crucial. And I want to think that this might even be the most important subject we are handling in this year. Professor Edward Kakonge is a retired professor of biochemistry. He's a former minister in the Republic of Uganda under the National Resistance Movement. He is currently chairman UPC, Uganda People's Congress, which was also once in government. So you see, he's always either close or in. Not once but twice. Not once but twice. So, and you know, if you were once in something, you can always go back. And he's a great Pan-Africanist and a wonderful parent. Say, Professor, welcome. Let's receive him with a very big hand. Our next panelist will be Dr. James Chimera Sechuanuka. He's a doctor by PhD, but also has very interesting information about medicine. You recall very well when we were discussing herbalism here and the other associated topics associated with health. He is a child development specialist. He is a director at Calum Africa. Calum Africa is a charity organization helping the needy citizens to get empowered, go through school and etc. He is a corporate Africa associate management consultant. He is also a lecturer at Makerere University, Department of Social Work and Social Administration. We are extremely delighted to host you as our panelist. Dear Dr. you're welcome, and let's receive him with a very big hand clap. The next panelist will be, I should say, is the big man of the day, because he is from an organization that we are partnering with, right, to have this discussion take place. The organization is called Haleya. Joseph Ruchamuzi on my right. He is the assistant project manager at Haleya. Haleya is an NGO. I think in the full is a humanist association for leadership, equity, and accountability. So I should also have PhD in Haleya, because this is not it. So I know this very well. He is also a political assistant at Parliament, working with the Honorable Matthias Mpuga, one of the well-known members of Parliament. He started because of the leadership and activism. And I think that is a reflection of your good work done behind the scenes. We congratulate you. And also, Joseph Chams is head of research with the Uganda Youth Council. Yes. And you know, Kings have much to do with who we are. So we are glad to sit with you. But also, finally, he is a journalist by training. And we all know that journalists, if not the highest, at least we should say, are among the highest, most informed segment of the population in any society. They are always very, very well informed and up to date. We are glad to host you as our panelists tonight, and let's welcome you with thunderous hands. Our topic has a global aspect, because we stated it as analyzing types of thinking and critical thinking skills that globalization benefits in Africa. So globalization puts us at world stage. Now, having said that, the topic we are handling, critical thinking, at least you know that you will deal with the person comfortably or uncomfortably, and largely because of how that person thinks. And that's what makes us believe that this is extremely crucial. We are glad that we have the most able panelists to take us through this subject, and then we can have the discussion. It's now my pleasure to invite Professor Edward Kaponge to give us his views in some few reasonable minutes, and then we shall roll the debate in the order that I'll be mentioning ahead. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Sparing your time to be here. Now, I've titled my paper, my presentation, The Necessary Thinking and Leadership Skills. And many of you have been aspiring to be leaders, and I want you to aspire to be also thinkers. But to understand the necessary skills for a good leader or good leadership, you have also to study, understand, and practice good thinking. You have to learn to nurture great thoughts, because you will never go higher than your thoughts. You can go lower, you can never go higher than your thoughts. Now before we go deeper, what is thinking? Actually, thinking is basically juggling ideas in your head, which means that you must have some ideas and then arranging them in a way which is creative, which is new, which is innovative, and the overall effect that you raise perception to a high level than what was there. So your mind juggling these ideas, find out the best idea. The best ideas to combine to form something. So really, this is a gift which God gave us. And this is the most powerful weapon we have. As human beings, through our heads we can create some powerful weapon. But you can never go beyond the natural forces of nature. Because when you look at the weather, the storms, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, they will even just the winds. These are powerful, very powerful forces which are natural. Some of you may be interested to know that the sun, which is the center of our world as human beings, the surface itself, the surface of the sun is 15 million centigrade. The heat. Can you imagine? 15 million centigrade. And then the inner part of the sun goes up to 50 million degrees. So when you see that kind of amount of heat energy, actually it's really difficult to imagine. Because a human being cannot even get within 10 miles of the sun before he's turned into dust. And we human beings are very fragile. But we have that delicate thing called life. And for human beings, life is maintained. You survive struggle through thinking ways out of problems. You're not empowered with the physical might of the This is why it's very important. We are the most powerful tools we have is basically and organizing things and creating things out of your head. Here I'm really trying to outline the sources of ideas. But more fundamentally, if you are not a prolific reader, you are unlikely to have prolific ideas. Because some of you are reading, white reading, you find some ideas, and then they trigger you into thinking and juggling those ideas, and it creates something bigger than what is before. But the important thing is to develop the capacity to handle it. So I was talking about creative thinking. Now, there is a skill called realistic thinking. When you have gone into those wild dreams and arrangement in your head, what is the real thing you can concretize? So you have to calm down to realistic. Now this is again a very important aspect of how you actually are going to survive. For example, if you are unemployed, it would be unrealistic of you to start dreaming of driving a Rolls Royce, the latest machine called the Benz, stuff that. Yes, you can dream about that. But then what is the reality you can deal with? So there is that kind of aspect where you can dream, but then those dreams have to be brought down to the floor. Of all these kind of things, what is there for me here and now? Or what is there for me and the community I'm in? What is there for me and the family I have? So you have to come down to the reality you are living in. So that is the skill of reality. Now, there is the power of strategic thinking. I hope you know what strategy means. Something you are doing so that it can take you to another level. Not necessarily the highest level, but it can remove you from the mundane. And very often in our life, by forces of nature, by forces of the kind of life we live, very often we have to strategize. Because you may want to do something, but you don't have the resources. Or you may not even have the time. But there is something you want to do. So if you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, do you just throw that idea away? No. You have to strategize as to how you're going to achieve something, or how you're going to move slowly towards what you think you should achieve. And this is very, very important, because very often some people have some money or have some friends, then they think big. Yeah? And immediately they jump into a big idea. And then they cannot be sustained. So they collapse. But then you may find somebody who actually entertains the same idea. But for him it goes strategically, step by step, over prolonged period. He can eventually achieve what he wants. But there are people who are big thinkers and big dreamers, and they think that as if for an instant they're going to achieve what they want. So this kind of strategic thinking, where you're planning for something big, but then you have to approach that thing step by step. That is what I was studying. Then you have this, that's combined with strategies, combined with possibility thinking. You see the possibilities, and then you work out how you can materialize those possibilities. So all these are thinking skills which eventually achieve something bigger than the original small thought which came to your mind. Then you have aspect of reflective thinking. Because when you have your planning process, you need to reflect. And reflection means basically you're putting your plan and your ideas into context. Bringing down to the possibilities, but seeing the limitation, and then cutting down the possibilities. Finally, actually, we're going to get this complication. Then, bottom line. You have floated your brain all over. Actually, you can float all over the world, all over the world. But then you have to come back to the ground. You have to come back to the ground. Because most all the thoughts you have through this process can be turned into something good. Can be turned into something good. Initially it may appear as if it's a dream. But there are many dreams which have come through a process. So I had the 4-page document which I want to do. But I've already been, I think I've already overdone my time. It's the time up. But unfortunately, I have these things on my sleep, and every one of them get a copy and take your time to study these things. And particularly the most important page is page 2 in the whole context. The most important is page 2. Why you can do types of things. And all of us go through these aspects in a small or big way. So, thank you for listening to me. And I commend every one of you this paper so that you give your time to study, not just read, study. Yes. Study because I want you to make some ideas which you can apply. The way you relate to yourself, the way you relate to yourself, you relate to others, and you relate to some people far and near. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think the topic is much bigger than we had previously anticipated. Because I'm already beginning to think that we cannot finish it tonight. Thank you very much, Professor. We shall now hear.
Yeah, so I want to express my appreciation as a couple. And you have actually triggered my mind. And I think that's what we need. If we are to strategically position ourselves to tap globalization benefits. And personally, I would like to start from the very end of the topic. Okay? Tap benefits of globalization in Africa by using critical thinking. So what is globalization? Globalization is a process of international integration arising from interchange of world views, ideas, and other aspects of culture. Globalization is what? Is integration. It can be economic integration, spiritual integration, cultural integration, social integration, psychological integration. That is globalization. And where we are right now, we can't avoid globalization. It has brought many negative aspects of life, globalization. We can talk of homosexuality, we can talk of drug abuse, and many other things. However, tonight I want just to concentrate on the benefits of globalization. There are very many benefits. One, international trade. Globalization has brought international trade. Today you don't necessarily need to go to China to trade. You can just, they are just Chinese industries are just a call away from you. And that is trade, and you can benefit from trade. If you want to study trade, you don't necessarily need to start by asking a license. No, you just connect to people who matter. And later you can go to acquire a license. Two, international tourism. We have heard of international tourism. And Uganda is a special place for tourism. And we get international people. Three, international sports. All of you are, most of you, 90 plus percent who are here, the young people, who are very interested in international sports. Where would we be now without international sports? And this has been brought about by globalization. And all of us, was it last month? We watched this international football, World Cup. Okay? And some of our very brothers and sisters have won medals in international sports. And they have brought home money. That's globalization. They are global financial systems. You can decide to keep your, for example, if you bank, you can decide to bank your money in another country by not even going there. People have opened up accounts in other countries. So you are not limited. Nobody can tie you in Uganda that you have to bank your monies in Uganda. You can open up a foreign account. That is what? Globalization. Diffusion of knowledge. Today, it is a pity that many students at Makerere University and other places don't even pass exam. And yet knowledge is that, at their doorstep. You just go to the computer and search for knowledge. By the way, today there are people who just have self-medication. They just go to the computer and say, I'm suffering from this, what kind of drug do I need? That's what globalization has brought. Technology.
I don't know whether there is any person here who does not use technology. The simple thing is China is the phone call out from you. USA. No confusion. That is globalization. Okay? These are things which we can take advantage of. Better quality of life. Globalization. More importantly, global connectivity. Come Africa, the organization is connected globally. That is the globalization. Now, professors told us you need to have the right thinking in order to tap into the benefits which are brought forth by globalization. And he defined the thinking very well, if you can even. It is the act of producing thoughts. Okay? And thinking allows us to make sense, okay, or interpret and make predictions about the world we live in. Through thinking, we are able to evaluate information gathered from observation, from experience. We can make reflections. So, ladies and gentlemen, thinking is very critical. Now, in America, in 1900, there was a priest. This was a Baptist priest. He had two boys. They were called the Wheat brothers. They challenged that thinking. They looked at it and said, yes, Newton, thought of a good idea and came up with the force of gravity. So what? You throw something, it comes down. No, we want to think of putting something up and doesn't fall down. So they looked at two things. The bird. What sustains it in the air? Why does it sustain there? Then they looked at the whirlwind. The whirlwind comes and pushes things up for some time. They said, no, we don't need the force of gravity. We need the force of dynamics, that we can go up and remain there. So within 1 year, they came up with a balloon. Yeah, the first thing they made was a balloon. It stayed there and whatever, and finally they made a big one. They put in the fire and the fire kept on pushing it up. That was a new dimension of experience for them. And many people came to and admired them. So they called that the force of dynamics, force of whatever. Yes, that was it. They were younger people. And what they did revolutionized the entire world. The entire world never remained the same. And for your information, people built on that. And in 1914, America was the first country to come up with the jet fighters. Yes, because of that. And today, transport has been made very easy because of aeroplane. But people just thought it was an idea. So I think that's very critical, especially for younger people today. They need to think and think critically, think strategically. We need time to think. We need space. We need a place. The problem is most people don't think. I mean, my colleague Ndugu Kojo will tell you, most managers, we are doing management. Most managers don't think. They are just copy. they say, no, what I want is production. They don't even think of who produce. They say, no, what I want is production. How many books have we produced? They don't mind about the people who produce this. Why? They are copycats. They were trained, you have to organize, you have to direct, you have to do this. They don't want to do. But I think good managers must also be good leaders who are very innovative. And you can't be innovative if you don't take time to think. And when you think, Professor said, you need the others. You need to exchange some of your ideas with the others so that people can evaluate you. Yes, can critique you and say, yes, you are in the right track, or you are off. You are getting it right. And I think that's very important. We have people like Socrates, okay, the man who first defined the, we have Abraham Lincoln, who defined the democracy, but I think he read the works of Socrates. We have the Plato, and many others. So, for me, as I conclude, I want to focus, make people, I want mainly to focus on political thinking, which I want to call creative thinking. Yes, when you think, you are supposed to generate ideas. But after generating many ideas, ladies and gentlemen, you need to prioritize. You're not going to use all the ideas you get. Okay? You want to be rich by, starting an industry, starting a shop. You want to do some farming. You want to join those people in petroleum. Those are very good ideas. But you need to make a reflection, sit down and say, out of these many ideas, can I decide to concentrate on one? And what is it doing? Then you plan your course of action. After you have planned your course of action, then you take action. That's the right thinking. You don't just think. The problem is, when people think and think and think, what happens? They get dreams. And when you keep on dreaming, you are likely to experience nightmares. You wake up and there is nobody. People dream when they have a lot of money. And when they wake up, they see nothing. And they become very hungry and angry. And they are not. That's the problem. And then you assess the result. Thinking must be pragmatic. When you think, you must come up with something. When you think you want to go for studies or further studies, you do it. When you don't do it, you have a problem. And you have wasted time. You have little time on planet Earth. I don't think there is anyone who will live for over 100 years. And 100 years is not a longer period. And the life expectancy in Uganda is 58. Now, how do we improve our creative thinking ability? Take this. 1. Keep track of your ideas at all times. The ideas you have decided to focus on, keep them. 2. Pose new questions to yourself every day. You can even challenge the status quo. Pose some questions. Think creatively. Keep abreast of your field. And you need to read literature. Because you have decided this is what I want, this is the course of action I want to take. And you must read. Engage in creative hobbies. Because just drinking is not a good hobby. It's not creative. Play a game which will enhance your ability to think and become more creative. Have courage and self-confidence. Assume that you can and indeed you can solve problems. Thinking is about solving problems. Don't think if you are not intending to solve problems. You are wasting time. Yeah. Think of creating a problem and make life better. The Socrates, the Witch brothers, those who discovered everything, they thought creatively to solve problems. I think thank you very much.
As humans, we have set out to see that people reason freely, and we are being given primary school children and secondary school children. So this is a topic that directly concerns us because as earlier we are in the thinking business. Africans generally don't have little respect for the thinking business. That is why you see people are so much into thinking in Africa. In Europe or in the West, if you're in the thinking business, you can grow rich. But here it isn't valued. Because people think they know. Usually when you find leaders at whatever level, whether in politics or in business, you think they have a monopoly to knowledge and the truth. But you will allow me to define what thinking is, because we will ask ourselves what is thinking. Thinking is simply using your brains or mind to consider or reason any given subject at hand. And like Professor and Doctor have said, very few people take time to think or reason. That is why you find in general Africans are the greatest believers in the world. We are the ones who are so much into religion wholesale. Because you see, belief means it's only one person doing the reasoning. The others are just accepting. And this is very dangerous. So that's why I'm telling you, I always find myself when I start speaking these things among people who are conservative, I find myself at loggerheads with them. But that's reality. So as Africans, we have to change our mindset, how we do things. They have given you lots of type of thinking, but also have to give you some other types of thinking that we have to reflect upon. There is what they call reframing. Many things in this world are not as they have been taught to us. We grow up knowing things that are said to be true and actually are false. So we have to be, like Doctor said, we have to be open-minded. We have to learn new truths, and we have to learn to unlearn falsehoods. And these are things we are not ready to do. The African, when you tell an African something, even when he realizes it's the truth, but he feels like it feels like it's going to hurt him to change his mind. It's going to just set you. Why it is something simple. You just have to marry what is new and what is old, and to get the best out of it. But as Africans, we are lagging behind because we are not ready to unlearn falsehood. We have been taught there is a race that is superior, and when we see some of the things and we say that's how it really is. And people are learning nothing that a black person today is ruling the greatest country in North America. That would be enough to show you that you can be what you are. Sometimes we just look mediocre just because of the places we're in. Like Doctor told you, need a place. Sometimes the environment where you are won't favor you, but you can move to another environment. And then we also have what we call black and white thinking. And this is very dangerous. It's the reason why in Africa we are killing ourselves, macheting ourselves. We think that something must either be true or wrong. We usually don't have any middle line. So you can imagine when you go to Central African Republic, the Muslims and the Christians are butchering themselves over foreign faiths. And they can't sit down and say, but okay, at the end of the day, don't we have common values? Don't we have common interests? For them, it's about the goal. So when you see things from whether it's right or wrong, you look at what's happening in Uganda. Today, if you have any relative or a friend who is a civil servant, many of them are not receiving salaries. Why? Just because we thought two men locked up in a room doing their stuffies or their stupidities is more dangerous to us than environmental degradation, than not having our products on European or American supermarket shelves. That's more dangerous than GMO foods. So, like the topic says, how to tap into globalization. All this, today we know what's going on in Syria, we know what's going on in Ukraine. What are the things we can learn? Why is Europe going slow on Russia? Because they know Russia has gas. Now for us, we know these people are supposed to give us some aid. This aid is supposed to help our people who are suffering from AIDS to buy ARV drugs. Then all of a sudden, emotionally, you just disagree with them. You say, cut off your aid. You haven't even thought about where you're going to get the money. Look after these people. So what kind of people are we? Like doctors said, all the information is just a mere click away. But what are people engaged in? Like I've told you, people don't want to reason. They don't want to think. It is the reason why you find, even when you go to Makerere, you go to all these movie libraries near Makerere, you will find that the most popular movies are the translated ones. Why? Because someone doesn't want to listen to someone speaking a foreign language and reasons for himself and interprets for himself. He wants someone to do that job for him. That is why you see people watch translated movies, even when he knows English. He would rather see a movie that is going to make him laugh than learn something from it. So you can see dilemmas as Africans, the kind of dilemma we're in. Then there is brainstorming. You can see what we are doing there, brainstorming. But are we into a culture of brainstorming? How many platforms like this do we have all over Uganda now? How many platforms like this have taken place this week? If there is any like this, you go to Uganda Road and they're just organizing weddings. So as Africans, we are not even into brainstorming. Our government closed the Remeza. This was an opportunity where people come, you hear all kind of reasons. Now I go to critical thinking, because that was thinking per se. Now critical thinking skills what we need. We need to do analysis. most of the times when our culture here, most of our people will understand. When they hear something on radio, TV, it's true. It's true. And he will even tell you, I had it on TV. Now, with the internet, you see on the internet, any one of you can write a blog, any one of you can have a website. So now, at the first click and you're looking for information, you learn on a website. But most of the websites or most of the sites on the internet are propaganda-based. Everyone is driving his own agenda. So now, when someone goes to the internet and you get some kind of information, you take it to be true. So you see the danger in that. So you have to analyze all the information you get and see the falsehoods in it and get the truth out of it. You have to look at what is the source of this information. What is this kind of person? Why is he saying this? And then we have to learn to interpret. We don't do interpretation. Sometimes words have hidden meanings. But for us, we just take things to their face value. For instance, we have a certain person who wrote a book some 20 years back, and he said the problem with Africa is leaders who spend long in power. Some few years back, BBC asked him and he said, no, I meant those ones who spend long in power without being elected. Now, how do you interpret the words of this man? Because every time he explains and you take it that way, you have to learn that when he says these words, where is he driving to? So then we have to learn to evaluate. We have to learn to sieve. You just don't take any information all set. And then the benefits of globalization. Of course, for the most, globalization, like Dr. Began and Professor said, globalization mainly is associated with negative aspects. The things that have come, that are the interferences with our culture. But globalization has its benefits. Research, as someone who is research, I know how much globalization has helped in research, the power of the internet. Today anyone can, if you're given any topic to speak about and you're given some little time, I'm telling you, can go to any platform and you look a genius. Just because of the power of the internet. And then comparison. You can only be as good as comparing yourself with how others are faring. Otherwise, if you're only comparing yourself with yourself, you're not going to progress. And while I start winding up, money laundering. While I start winding up, I want to speak about some wise sayings or some wise men, things that can take our minds. All things in this world begin as thoughts or ideas. Everything in this world began as a thought, as an idea. Even you yourself who is sitting here, your father was somewhere and he saw some beautiful lady, then he started conjuring some pictures, and today you're here. So we have to take thinking serious. That's what I'm showing you. Then Voltaire, one of the greatest philosophers, Francois Marie Arouet, said, no problem in this world can withstand the assault of sustained thinking. And Africa, you know that one of the problems disturbing us as Africans is we think these problems were created for us. As Africans today, there is Ebola in West Africa. And Africans today are complaining, America took some of its medics and they used some prior versions. So I've heard some Africans complaining, but these Americans, they aren't giving us, but at least they should also give us the drug. When will we as Africans develop our own drugs? And we have produced all the doctors. Today we don't have medics here per se. But we have guys who have PhDs in medicine. People are called Mr. in medicine. But we still look to the Western world. So why can't medics sit like we're sitting here and reason and find the kind of problems we need for our medical ailments? And then Albert Einstein said the world we have created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. That is where I began from. We must be open-minded, be ready to learn new truths, and be ready to unlearn falsehoods. Thank you very much.
Can we see the hands of the interested persons? So we shall begin with Kojo. At the moment, is the only hand up. Yes.
All right. You are just an expression of your thoughts. Whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, that is the truth. You are exactly what you think. The picture you create of yourself on your mind is the expressions of who you are. I say that both poverty and riches, and Napoleon Hill wrote in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he says both poverty and riches are offsprings of thoughts. And when we are talking about thinking, we are talking about the use of our parts, a part of us that is not physical, that we cannot see, that we cannot touch. That is the mind. How does the mind work? The mind creates pictures. The pictures you create about yourself, the way you look at yourself, what we call self-perception, the way you look at yourself as in your mind is exactly what you are. You cannot change that unless you change the picture you create of yourself on your mind. Our minds is the center of our energy, is the center of creation. Now, as a people, how do we look at ourselves? Africans, black people. As Africans, as black people, how do we look at ourselves in our minds? We have accepted that we are poor. We have accepted that we don't have resources. We have accepted that nothing is working for us. That for me is a problem.
Good night.
To make it just short within my time frame, I want to say that reasoning begins with asking questions. Your ability to question the circumstances in which you find triggers your thinking process. And whatever your thinking process gives you is the final output of what we have. We have our school systems. I remember in the other thing of the age, King Leopold II said, you go to them, target the kids, teach them how to read, but not to reason. And I think it is still happening. Let's begin to ask questions, brothers and sisters. We are in a globalized situation. Globalization only means the whole world is becoming smaller and smaller and interconnected. It is your ability to reason. It is your ability to think. The only business we have to do in this world is to use our mind, to think and to reason out, ask questions. Unless and until we start doing that, I don't see how we're going to get a future. Let me get back to my same thing, then you can show it to me. When you find Africans walking about in European names, for me, it is a backfire. For me, it is like you have lost yourself. It all begins with you. Discover who you are, then you discover what you have, then you can use what you have to get yourself in our globalized situation.
Thank you, Kojo. Smart Professor. But shall we have the shadow analysis?
So we need to stimulate all the three domains if we have come up as great thinkers. In Africa, we have got categories of people. There are those who can easily reason cognitively with masters. But when you tell somebody who is having a master's in agriculture to handle the whole, he cannot. Meaning certain aspects are not with that one, that person. We normally talk about developed economies or developed countries. What those people normally do, like for example, when we are teaching our learners here in Africa, we are supposed to teach from the known to the unknown or abstract. But the problem is that when we are teaching, again, we begin with the abstract, then later they come to know our area. The other time I was asking a certain teacher, who was teaching learners of lower primary. And that teacher, the children, they knew the map of Uganda, but they never knew the map of their division, which was an abstract. How can you learn about Uganda when you cannot define your own sub-county? You cannot define your family, the home. You cannot define the environment where you are living, but you want now to learn about prairies in America. So the reason why we are not thinking in Africa is that we have got a disorganized educational system, which we need to change and have that thinking. We have got so many types of thinking, but there is one which I would like also to add on, the logical thinking. Whenever we are thinking, we must have the logic. Don't just think, but we must have the logic as to why you are thinking about that issue. Creative thinking, our guests have already talked about it. We are now trying to move away from the other classroom work to creativity. That's why we have the CAPE Creative Arts and Physical Education. People need to know, if I wanted to become a musician, do I begin cramming other people's work? Now, today we have got a problem. Very many musicians, they are cramming their other people's songs. You need to sit down and have creative thinking so that you come up with something which is unique. And you'll be taken maybe to America or outside countries because of that uniqueness. But you find somebody is copying Lucky Dube because the other one passed away. Why can't you have critical thinking so that you can have a new idea? Let me end there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for our guests for this topic. But I would like to assure you that every teacher, a good teacher, must be a good thinker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Shall we have Asozi?
Whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are right. Reflect about it, it will help you. However, Professor, I wanted to know, you can think and think extensively, but my area of concern is communicating your thinking and bringing people on board to think like you want them to think, or to think in a direction that transforms them. How do you communicate thinking? Thinking is not dichotomous. That is either or. That is either right or wrong. Or it's either Eurocentric or Afrocentric. But that knowing one thing in one way or another does not mean that you cannot know another thing in the same way or another. I don't know whether I have successfully convinced you that knowing one thing in one way or another does not mean that you cannot know another thing in the same way or another. Anyway, they say philosophy is a nuisance, so when you indulge it, it can be that way. However, thinking and commercial interests as well. There's a common saying that the wisdom of a poor man is despised. The wisdom of a poor man is despised. So it doesn't matter how much you are thinking. If there are no commercial interests, if there are no commercial linkages to making your thinking relevant, then it becomes a problem. I don't know. I would like to say that Socrates was a very poor man, by the way, for those of you who follow him. Very poor man. He used to walk around barefoot. So for those of you who are thinking of pursuing thinking to a higher level, you had better know its point. Yeah. I would like to conclude. He said that a life without reflection, thinking, is not worth living. I thank you.
Thank you. Shall we have Jose? How were you thinking? Because you thought that created Africa.
Of course. First of all, before I speak, I thank Professor somebody here, the professor. We talked of Wright and Williams who invented the aeroplanes. The good thing is that I've got their photographs and the book about them. They started in 1902. Then in 1904, hey, the thing went up for 30 minutes, about 20 yards. Then 30 yards. These are the things which I have been studying in many cases. What are these things? What way do they give? Airplanes, bicycles, radios, the materials we need for better living conditions. How do they begin? Who started? And this is one of the reasons why I became almost mad when I was a kid. I didn't like what I was being told at my kids. People are prejudice against too much theoretical, too much bookish. Professor, I'm telling you, we must go to school right from P1 up to A-level. Everybody must go to school to know how to read and write. But above that, let me give you a very bad example. Uganda has got 40 universities at the moment. I can't tell you. I got to give them my history. But what do they produce? Even a certain penny for gigas is important. That's my idea. Even a toothpick, a mosquito coil, however simple it is important. That thing hurts me, and it hurt me many years, and that's one of the reasons why I had got an improvement. Unity is strength, and we must improve the system of education.
Okay, so Kabulega, please, you can pick it up from there.
Thank you very much. Here we have analyzing types of thinking. Critical thinking, but I love the critical part of that. 4, skills. Then 5, globalization. 6, benefits. This, if you have to look at it in terms of the Lombardian mandate, which I'm going to endeavor to play. When you look at it in terms of the Lombardian mandate, which still forms, or which is still a determinant, a major determinant in the parameters of our education. Then you couple that with innovative thinking and creative thinking, which we have been trying to talk about here. Eventually, we are going to find ourselves at that level of critical thinking. But to look at critical thinking, what should we first understand? We should look at African epistemology and African archaeology, where epistemology is the knowledge and knowledge system, where archaeology is the study of values. I'm not at par with my brother Kasozi when you talk about dichotomy here and there. It is not as simple as dichotomy, okay? But sure, there are opposing blocks. That when you dichotomize it, you simplify it, and which is not right. When we talk about epistemology and archaeology, eventually we shall come down to African, not rather African, but to ideation systems. There is a very clear difference between African ideation and, for example, European ideation, and sometimes Orient ideation. So why shouldn't a man talk about dichotomy in this case? If you read Arthur Makeji, he has tried to expound on ideation systems. Here it is one man for all, and all for one. Whereas there it is the survival for the fittest. I think there is a big difference there. And many other things. So, African epistemology was based on symbolic rhythm, rather in symbolic imagery and rhythm. Western epistemology is based on writing. So, anybody can tamper with the message at the end of the day by simply expanding and editing. But the African message, you couldn't tamper with it because it's locked up in rhythmic imagery and symbolic imagery and rhythm. When you tamper with the two, I'm talking about epistemology and axiology, ultimately, critical thinking is dented and compromised. Lack or depletion of homegrown epistemology breeds misconception and flourishing of fallacies and pseudo-concepts, such as, sorry to say if I'm stepping on anybody's feet, your religion and your foreign names. All those are pseudo-concepts that are busy defining and determining your life and your welfare sometimes. This, all those fallacies, pseudo-concepts, all ride on ignorance. That is their common denominator. Lack of homegrown axiology breeds false values and priorities. That, coupled with monetization and commercialization, not only makes us deficient of esteem, but leads us to absence of esteem. Where you find a person asking, that is a hungry person. And a hungry person cannot think straight. Because we have, or somebody somewhere somehow has tampered with our epistemology and our axiology. Ultimately, our critical levels of ability of critical thinking has equally been compromised. What do we have at the end of the day? Due to lack of our own homegrown epistemology and axiology, we have ended up, we don't have leaders anymore, we have comprador agents. We don't have virtue no more, we have vice ruling. We don't have education anymore, we have miseducation. We don't have liberation, we got pacification. We don't have development, it's underdevelopment. All of which lack of critical thinking. Lastly, but with the Leopardian mandate still flourishing and forming the core of our education framework, layout and outlet, critical thinking will remain elusive, and globalization will be detrimental to African development. Why? Critical thinking is a concomitant of consciousness, spirituality, and ultimately enlightenedness. Thank you very much.
Critical thinking determines how we dress, how we sleep, the women we marry, where we stay, and many other things. But then Professor and our friend here from Aliyah and Dr. Chimera, he did not emphasize on the challenges, on the limitations that resembles critical thinking. You may think, Professor, that I would like to cause change in this country. And he said, okay, tomorrow maybe walk the walk. But then there are people up there who may say, no, your thoughts were maybe revolutionary and can cause negative.
Maybe use another route until they don't know.
Yeah. And that's the challenge that I'm talking about. You did not emphasize on the challenges. And that's what's killing better thoughts in this country. You may say that maybe I would like to do ABCD, but there are certain people who are saying that no, you have to think like us. If you think outside the box, then you're not a good thinker. At the end of it all, you may find yourself being bad.
To that point, I will begin with Dr. Chimera.
Thank you very much. This is a very important and yet very challenging topic. One, the fear. And some people have defined the fear as falsely evidence against reality. But it's not there. You know, the thing is, it's about thinking. Yeah. Because if you are engulfed by fear, you will never think properly. That's why you need a place where you can think. And by the way, that is one thing where you don't ask permission. Nobody can refuse you to think. And when you think, doesn't mean that you implement the idea straight away. People have been thinking and building on their thinking brings out ideas. And you can build an idea and fertilize it with other ideas, graft it until it becomes so strong that nobody can resist it. We want people to think, that you come out with ideas which cannot be resisted. Yes. And it is possible. For example, our President Museveni, when he decided to go to Bush, it was a thought. He thought about it. So, for me, gentlemen, thinking is supposed to determine or define our very existence, and supposed to bring forth determination, courage. Okay, that's what I think. Thinking helps us to define life. And how we define life determines our destiny. For example, people will think in terms of fun. So they will always value what eating and drinking and whatever. Others will define life in terms of rest. Such life is a rest. Those people will always value what? Will always value time. That's how they define it, and that's what they have thought about. Others as a marathon say no, life is a marathon, and those people will always value endurance. But most people will think of life as a struggle, and the moment you think of life as a struggle and you define it as a struggle, you will always value victory. You not rest at anything, and victory becomes your password. Not until you win, and you always say quitters never win and winners never quit. You always think about it until it becomes the reality. So thinking is very critical. Can help us to define our life, can determine your life and your destiny.
Kasoze Mulindwa, your concerns were right, but what is needed is networking. As Africans, we have to learn to network, because like these two elders have said, you can't have a monopoly to all the knowledge. You're going to have people to assist you in the implementation. You might be very good at formulating ideas, but you might not be good at implementation. I need to talk something little about university education. In Uganda, you're always going to find people saying our education system has to be changed, and it has become a fallacy. It is a song. Our education system has to be changed. Actually, most universities today, because they have brought up very many, they're just like secondary schools. They're just continuing to feed children with information, while universities are meant to train people to think. That is why you see people with universities, they hit the streets and they can't find a job or they can't innovate one. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a quote of Aristotle. Aristotle said, leaders should be philosopher kings. Now that's one problem we have in Africa. All leaders are aspiring to have a building on Kampala Road. They are aspiring to have a specific number of herds of cattle in the crowd. Now, with that kind of environment, we are headed to nowhere. That is why when Mr. Kasozi said that Socrates died a poor man, and I also hinted on it, people who are so much into thinking, because like the chairman has said, they dedicate little time to themselves. Most of their time is dedicated to thinking for the good of society. And as Africans, I don't know how we can train our children, because for the most, this generation, our age is lost. But if we can harness the young generation to teach them to think for the good of society and not to be self-centered, then Africa, we can get back on track. Because actually, we were once on track, and that is on record. We can get back there and lead this world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are going to thank people here for your patience, for your contribution on war. I think what we should think about what is about is your own contribution Actually, I wanted we need to forget it and make a determination that I will do what I can this life. And that will be a brick. Somebody else also will come, make a stand, and continue to Fortunately, the transformation of society is actually depends on the rhetoric of the future. Critical thinkers, they don't have a big. But once they chart things properly, others will follow. You heard of Bill Gates. Bill Gates is not a university graduate. But he was in university. But once an idea struck him, he said, no, I'm not going to waste my time. I'll follow this guy. But the important thing, really, is this is a challenge. What will be your role? Not in terms of how many are we. What will be your individual role? So you should resolve, say, not for me, this is what I'm going to do. And then if there's another one who is going to contribute similar to what you had but in a different line, eventually you create a critical mass which is actually not big and people will listen. Because they will judge you actually not so much of what you are saying, but how are you living what you believe in? That is what is going to determine the shift. Not so much what you are saying, but how are you living what you live? If you value human beings, then anybody in your circle will be safe in spite of the weaknesses. But then if you don't value the human being, anybody who comes in your circle will be at risk. So what I'm pleading, be a source of comfort and encouragement to another human being so that he can be part of your crusade for changing the world to a better place. There will be detractors. Those are always there. Because you may remember when Jesus was crucified. There was a detractor on the cross. Do you remember? There was a detractor on the cross. He says, you save yourself and save the robber. He said, you save yourself and save me. That was a detractor. The cross was your own personal thing. So you want to be saved by somebody who is also on the cross. What was your contribution? So really, I'm glad people realize that this is not something to hurt. And it is meant to be that. It's meant to challenge you to start thinking, to get on a journey of thinking your way through. And really, I've been emphasizing this. When you have a problem, emotional behavior won't help you. Your friends will not help you. It is your capacity to think your way through that problem. That is what's going to help you. But for now, Thank you for coming. This is the homework. People will teach you or tell you what to think. And I want you to learn how to think. And if you know how to think, you can handle almost any problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much. Thank you, the panelists. We meet next time.